I could see the rainbow that is wrapped around your head, and all the little visions of the things that you have said, the reds and greens and blues and all the colors of your world look good to me. I see beyond the shadows of the stories you have told. I realize the answers are all there for me and you just to hold. So take a chance and let your spirit free, 'cause I don't wanna be the one to make you run away again. Please don't be afraid, just let this all begin, 'cause I want to say these words to you. You know it, baby, I know that we can make it through. If I just say these words to you. The last thing that I want is for you to run away, afraid that I might scare you with the words that I might say. And if I'm gonna take this chance, I hope that you are gonna take it too. Run away with me, we'll write the story as we go. It'll be a happy ending and we'll find our final goal, and you will see a better place for you and me. And I don't wanna be the one to make you run away again. Please don't be afraid, just let this all begin, 'cause I want to say these words to you. You know it, baby, I know that we can make it through. If I just say these words to you. Some only get one chance. Here we are again. So let's not let our second chance slip away. Hey, hey, hey. Cause I want to say these words to you. You know it, baby, I know that we can make it through. If I just say these words, I want to say these words to you. You know it, baby, I know that we can make it through.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Storytellers Series. I'm your host, John Taglieri. Welcome to the first show. This is the first time we're doing this. It's kind of cool. I want to thank you all for coming and hanging out. This started by accident, and it's one of those things that sort of just is growing organically and taking on a life of its own, and I'm excited about it. A few weeks ago, I went on to just play some of my own songs and kind of have some fun, and now we've got a show, and the show is cool. It's one of those things that I'm really proud to bring to you. I want to bring to you guys the music you don't get to hear and the stories about why those songs happen. I want you to connect with these songwriters. I don't bring you stories that you're not going to hear anywhere but right here. So every week I'm going to bring you a guest that you may know, that you may not know, but we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty about what the song is about. It's not about the red carpet. It's not about glitz and glamour. This is about what makes a songwriter tick and what makes a songwriter want to write a song. So before we get into that, I want to just say we are on Plymouth Rock Television, and we are broadcasting on Roku. So thank you for watching. We are in 10 countries right now, which is a lot of fun, and I'm loving the fact that we're bringing new songs and writers to that many people. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., we're live on Facebook. That's right, I said live. And then Thursdays, we broadcast on Roku at 7 p.m. on the Plymouth Rock TV channel. And then Sunday, we're going to repeat the week before on the Roku channel at 6. So you've got a few chances to see the show. But on top of that, it's streaming all the time on the Plymouth Rock channel. You can on-demand the show anytime you want on Roku on the Plymouth Rock channel. Just look us up. It's also on the Facebook page for the show. You can go there and see this anytime you want. So you've got no excuse not to be watching every week. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to get to my first guest. My first guest, though, it is the first guest. My guest is Munk Duane. Munk is a friend of mine, and we have made some great music together. We have played some great music and a lot of fun together, and he's a ridiculously talented guy with a list of accolades a mile long, but instead of me telling you about his accolades, I'm going to let you see it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Munk Duane. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce you to Mr. Munk Duane. Munk, how are you today, my friend?
I'm fabulous. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. First show.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Big deal.
Munk and I have a good history together. When I had my radio show, he was the first guest I had on my radio show as well. So yeah, I have this tendency to bring him on because I know I can count on him. And but I want the show is about you and your songs right now. So we saw the promo video, but I want you to give us a little more about who you are.
Sure. I am a recording artist, songwriter, film composer, based here on the South Shore, just outside of Boston, and been doing this for longer than I'm going to admit. And I've got 7 albums out. Working on my 8th right now while we're in seclusion. There's a lot of bad things that are happening right now, but the only good thing is time to be creative, which is fabulous. So
yeah.
I have about 20 new songs that I'm trying to whittle down to 10 and complete. And hopefully I'll have a new album out by end of summer. That's what I'm looking for.
So how do you do that? Now, I know how I do it, but when you've got 20 songs that you want to whittle down to 10, how does that happen for you?
For me, because I'm old school, and regardless of the singles mentality that we're in today's music industry, I still think in terms of an album. So I think in terms of sequence, and I think in terms of how do these things work together, and what is the narrative from the beginning to the end. So the 10 best that fit that criteria, along with some just personal favorites, those are the ones that are going to make it, and the others probably will never see the light of day.
So, song by song, you're kind of telling a story, and then you try to really sort of tell a whole story with the record.
Yeah, there are occasionally songs that just it's not one story per se, but it's an idea. So, Theory of History, my last 2 EPs, which were meant to be one album. That's the way they were recorded. I just wanted to release them in a little bit of a different way, based on today's consumer habits, which is, if you give them more than 5 songs at a time, people are using music right now from, to get from point A to point B, and
Right.
a lot of people aren't listening to albums anymore. So I tried that, but it was recorded as one idea, and it's about a thing, and it's about all the micro things that fit into the larger thing, basically. And there's a couple of outliers, but for the most part, to me, it's a complete thought.
Very cool. Well, what's the first song that we're going to work with tonight?
Tonight, I'm going to do a song called Long Way from New York City.
Okay. So tell us about the song.
So I grew up in the New York area, and one of the things that happens to you when you grow up in that area and you don't get out of it a lot, it's so big and so central and so all-consuming that you tend to think of it as the center of the world. And it feels that way when you're downtown, when you're doing a thing, when you're playing gigs down there for the first time. Everything feels so central to the universe.
Right.
But then I got a weird day gig at the time, which took me away to very strange places. I was working for the Department of Defense, and I went to my first horrible place out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere, and I had never been that far from home. I had never been in that environment. Everything was alien. I know you see it all in the movies and on TV, but to be there, experiencing it, was truly unique. And as cliche as it sounds, I saw my first sunset in the desert. And it was really that kind of just awe-inspiring experience, and this song came to me in almost one complete piece.
That's
in
nice.
That moment, which was, that doesn't happen often. This was one of those instances.
Okay. So A Long Way from New York City. And was there anything in the song, like, so A Long Way from New York City, I'm in the desert, it comes like that. When you sat down to produce it, how did you capture the vibe that you wanted in there?
Well, I didn't want it to stray too far from the overall vibe of the whole record, but it's got a little bit of that old school soul thing. But I wanted to make it sound a little more longing, so there are bigger sounds in there, not slide guitar, but big sounds like that are distant, because I felt distant. I felt so far from everything I knew that I wanted the sound of the song to evoke that same emotion, where it's just a fish out of water. But in that moment, I didn't mind because it was so beautiful and so new. I just wanted to just live in that moment.
Right. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Munk Duane and A Long Way from New York City.
Used to spend my time down on Bleecker Street, wrap myself in the sultry sound of the village beat. And I was so cool sitting at the center of the world, stealing all the grooves to impress a white girl, sucking up the brilliance through the concrete. Then I took the road. Now I'm a long way from New York City. I'm 1,000 miles from the place I used to call my home. I've come a long way from New York City, since the song of an Alabama river lifted me up and stole me away. Spent some time in Texas, now found furious. Found the hollow eyes of the ranch hands quite curious. But there's a melody waiting on my felony in every single place that I go. Just have to push myself a few more miles down the road. Down the road. Now I'm a long way from New York City. I'm 1,000 miles from the place I used to call my home. I've come a long way from New York City. Since the song of an Alabama river lifted me up and stole me away. From the deep December freeze of New England to the scorching summer sun of the Sonoran Desert Kingdom, Abilene. I've been deceived by the bright lights of New York City. Long way from New York City, 1,000 miles from the place I used to call my home. I've come a long way from New York City, since the song of an Alabama river lifted me up and stole me away. Stole me away. Whoa. Whoa.
Nice job, my friend. Nice job. Great song.
Thank you very much.
I like the way you're playing that too. With the electric tonight instead of an acoustic. That's very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm in acoustic overload. I've done a bunch of live streams of playing acoustic. I see everybody playing acoustic. I just want to try something else. I miss playing electric. And I miss playing with a drummer. And I think when we finally get back out to playing live again, I'm not going to play without a drummer for a long time.
There you go.
I need a band back.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. This whole being cooped up thing has sort of gotten to everybody, especially musicians. You know, I mean everybody, but musicians are feeling it in a very weird way because you know, we live in the public eye and we've been suddenly thrust into darkness. So, okay, what's our next song going to be?
Okay, the next song is going to be Random Acts of Blindness.
Okay. So tell me about Random Acts of Blindness.
So this is kind of about how we've become this society that is just so emboldened on our soapboxes on social media, and we say things we would never say to someone's face.
Very true.
Rarely.
Yeah.
And we dig in, and so many of us are guilty of it. Everyone's been doing this, and it just dawned on me that we are intentionally turning our eyes away from facts, from reality. We are encasing ourselves in these bubbles, and anybody that doesn't jive with our bubble is canceled.
Yep.
And it's we are doing the opposite of the phrase random acts of kindness. We are intentionally invoking random acts of blindness. And it's changing us as a culture, and I think it's changing us as a society, and not for the better.
It's become a very, and we've discussed this before, it's a very soundbite and meme-driven world right now.
Without any verification.
Correct. What I see,
very little.
What I see in front of me is I'm going to take as fact and I'm going to run with it and promote it without making sure that it's actually the truth.
Right. And you know, we all do these knee-jerk things, and that's the weird thing about social media. Like before social media, and you know, maybe this dates us, but before social media, when you spoke, most of us have a filter, and most of us think about something, because we were all taught this, most of us, by our parents. Think before you speak. With social media, there's no such construct. You think and you type. You never spoke once. And therefore, that filter doesn't exist. Should I or shouldn't I? And you've already hit post. before you really absorbed what you were about to say. And like I said, I'm not judging or preaching. I'm just as guilty. And I think that self-awareness of that concept is a first step to getting us back to some civility. We can disagree on lots of things, but it didn't used to mean civil war. And
right.
Once in our history it did, and it didn't end well. And do we really want to go back there? I think that a lot of us have more in common than we are talking about in social media, because we're only cherry picking the topics that we want to stand on the soapbox on and not listen to another point of view on, and it's not communication.
Yeah, and everybody's digging their heels in instead of trying to find out more. Instead of taking on another point of view that might enlighten you a little bit, they're digging their heels in and going, "No, this is what I know." And
was it Mark Twain? Maybe it wasn't verified that he said this. I know he has said this, but I don't know if it came from him. But it's like, you can't. If you think you know everything, you can't learn anything.
Right.
And this is something I'm trying to convey to my kids all the time, because of the society that we're growing up in. And kids do this all the time. Now, I know and you don't know. And it's a good exercise to be like, okay, take a step back. If you think you know and you think you're always right, you don't allow for the possibility that you could be wrong,
right,
then there's no place to grow. And there's nothing new to learn. And I think that it's silly, as silly as it is, that I'm trying to convey this lesson to, an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old. There are full-grown adults,
who don't get it,
their 50s and 60s and whatever, who are still fighting that battle. And it's So the song is kind of derived out of this. We are flipping the good things on their head. It's almost like we're living in the upside down.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Munk Duane and Random Acts of Blindness.
First mistake you make is telling me all that you know. How do you know? Where do I go to gain a piece of this great knowledge? Should you be the keeper of the vault of many secrets? Telling lies, compromise the way that we would leave it. I'm hating on the silence. When you're walking while I'm talking, I'm breathing your defiance. I'm getting really tired of your strategy for stalling and your random acts of blindness. Oh, blindness. Blindness. Thinking of the noble thoughts is always so well and good. What do you do? How do you move when you're answering that call? The level's never set. It's crowded with regret. You turn to me, I turn to you, and ask you use your head. And I'm hating on the silence. When you're walking while I'm talking, I'm breathing your defiance. I'm getting really tired of your strategy for stalling and your random acts of blindness. Oh, oh, oh. What the mama's talking to, every one of us would lose. If no one cared to learn, then we burn, burn, burn. I'm hating on the silence. When you're walking while I'm talking, I'm breathing your defiance. I'm getting really tired of your strategy for stalling and your random acts of blindness. Oh, 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 blindness. Whoa, 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 blindness. Whoa, 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 blindness.
Nice job, man. But it's a great song. I love that song. It's just got such a cool groove to it, you know?
Thank you so much.
So now, tell me about your writing process. Tell me about, so we talked about Long Way from New York City just sort of fell out.
Yes.
Is that common for you, or are you
No.
someone who sits down and agonizes over songwriting?
I don't know if it's agony, so to speak, but it is meticulous. Because my mind works really fast, so I'm constantly pumping out ideas. And whether it's just a melody that I record quickly on my phone, or I do something here in the studio, I'm pumping out things all the time. So they're not necessarily complete ideas. So I'll have a verse, I'll have a chorus, I'll have something else, I'll have a groove, I'll have a sound, I'll have whatever. And it's really trying to pull all those disparate things into a cohesive concept.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like clearing away the clay to get to the shape, to get to the sculpture kind of aspect to it.
Gotcha.
But I'm as driven by production and toys and making sound as I am by the traditional writing process. So every song is not birthed the same way. It's not always sitting down with a guitar and just coming up with an idea. Sometimes it's literally going completely backwards and starting with a beat and bringing bass in and then trying to come up with some kind of chord structure to it or not, and then melody and words come last. So I play both roles of both the traditional singer in the band who doesn't play anything, who comes in and writes the melody and lyrics at the end after the band has written the song.
Okay.
And more traditional, sitting with an acoustic and coming up with ideas and songs.
Okay.
Melodies.
I was when I used to go to Nashville a lot of people down there, and I hate to use the word formulatic, but they are.
It's working for them.
Well, it's
point.
working. It's working for those who are at the top.
Yes.
The rest of the town is trying to be formulatic in a way that's not working, and they'll write songs where they never let the song speak. They'll stop at every single line and try to reword the line before they know what the whole picture. They're trying to define a color before they know what the picture is.
Yeah, in the design world, we call that analysis paralysis. And it's also the construct, right? Where there are no individual writers. Everyone is forced to write in a group, in a team, if you look at writing credits for so many things now, there's 10 people in the writing credit. And as someone who is absolutely dreadful at collaborating, I just wouldn't survive in that environment. I've had a few successful collaborations over time, but it's the outlier. It's not the common case by any stretch.
Why would you say that you're not good at co-writing?
Again, it's because, and maybe this is attention deficit disorder, but my mind is working really fast when I'm trying to come up with ideas, which is why I have this setup, because everything's plugged in, everything's ready to go, and I can just start tracking. And literally to the point where the song is taking shape as I'm tracking, the mix is taking shape as I'm tracking, because I just want to get to the next idea.
Right.
Because I'm afraid of losing the vibe. I more often than not, you wake up with a great idea, but you don't get to it right away, and it's gone.
Yep.
And it's not so much the tangible song, but it's a moment. And I think those moments, in many cases, we're conduits for them, and they're given to us.
Yep.
And if we don't act on that moment's gone. And yes, we can reconstruct it with craft and with collaborators and whatever, but it's
never quite the same.
A piece of its soul that's missing.
Yeah.
For me, and clearly it works for many other people. I'm just not good at recapturing that spark once it goes away.
I can honestly agree with you, because there was a point where my old co-writer and I, Brad, would sit and write a song in the living room and get up and walk into the studio and record it. And we made a promise to ourselves that nothing got more than 3 takes. If it took more than 3 takes, we weren't saying what the song wanted to say. And we wrote 3 EPs that way. And they're just organically energetic, where I've had produced records that are missing that. They're just sort of that thing that you can't say it's this. It's just this thing. And nobody else would notice it but the guy writing.
As much as I'm a fan of the craft of writing and the craft of producing, and appreciate that and exercise those skills, to me, the creative thing is fleeting. Yeah. And you grab it or you let it go. And I have to work in such a way where if it's here, I have to act on it or it'll never come around to me again. Very rarely have I had an idea and didn't act on it that I rediscovered that idea later. It's just kind of gone forever. And it's just the way my mind works.
Now, where are you sitting?
I am sitting in Bad Stella Studios. This is my studio where I record my apps and I record my film scores.
Very cool. For those who don't realize, all of the bed music you're hearing on the show comes from Munk Duane and Bad Stella Studios. So all of this music that you're hearing while we're talking, all of the music you heard when I started the show, that's from this man right here. And you saw his promo video. Some of the things that were left out of that was that he's had music in the Tony Awards and used for the NFL and Blue Bloods, and The Sopranos, and so many others. So outside of just being a great songwriter for songs, this man is also a songwriter for film and TV. Talk about that for a little bit. Tell me the different as you approach songwriting. I'm going to put an EP out, or I've got songwriting to do for a film or a TV spot.
So the process between film scoring and songwriting, at least in the beginning, and what the idea that's birthing it, they're not dissimilar. I'm reacting to something that's inspiring me, right? So whether I'm listening to Prince or John Mayer or something that caught my ear, and I go, man, I want to do that, and then do my version of that. It's the same for scoring. It's except it's Hans Zimmer, or it's Michael Giacchino, or it's David Holmes. It's something that's making me go, man, I want to do that. Let me try my hand at that. Clearly, the workflow is completely different, but the impetus, the thing that makes you want to do it, is the same. You're just trying to emulate your heroes and then put your own spin on it.
Well, I guess part of the question for me is, I've had songs in movies, but never written soundtrack stuff. So for me, when I'm writing a song, the lyrics and the melody are taking me a place. You don't have lyrics most of the time when you're doing soundtrack stuff. How do you find that place for you?
Well, it depends on what place you're talking about.
How do you tell that story?
The story's being told for you. Your job is to support the story. Your job is to convey the emotional value of the story that's happening there. It's a conversation, right? It's a conversation that starts on the screen and that you respond to, and it becomes this symbiotic relationship between what you hear and what you see, to the point where, as an audience member, you're just taking in the whole emotional value of everything.
Okay.
So you don't want to get in the way of what you're seeing. You want to support what you're seeing, and you want give. It's weird. I've done this just as a goof, just to play around with it. But you can give a scene a completely different meaning by totally changing the vibe of the music. You could almost turn something very sad into something comical just by changing the vibe of the music. So music in film is extremely powerful in conveying the intended emotion that the director and the writer is going for. And you can screw it up super easy. So it's a matter of jumping in. Every composer I've spoken to that I know apparently is going through the same thing when they first get a project. When I first get a project, I have the deepest imposter syndrome that you could possibly imagine. I'm not good enough to do this. I have no idea why I said yes to this. I don't know where to start. And I'll procrastinate before I start to put together a sound palette and start to compose, and out of fear. I watched some interviews with Hans Zimmer, who has clearly done a billion things and is excruciatingly successful.
Yeah.
And he goes through the same thing. And everyone I've been talking to apparently goes through the same thing. It's daunting. Film scoring is a big, big project because it's not about, as a recording artist, it's just about me. And I can throttle my time as I need. This is a budget. There are other people dependent on you. There are deadlines, and you still have to convey that emotion and not let the story down. So there's a lot of extra weight on your shoulders when you do that. But when you're in the creative process, you kind of got to clear as much of it away as possible and just get down to what's going on here. What are they trying to say? How can I support that? How can I get that emotion and just take every ounce of it and just wring it out and make people just really, really feel what's going on screen?
Okay. Cool. I think a lot of people wouldn't understand that. Like people who don't understand how to write songs, people who, that's the whole point of the show, is to bring that kind of story, like to bring that kind of inspiration to people. How does that happen? So that's very cool, man. Thanks for going into some detail on that.
Sure.
What's our next song going to be?
I think we're going to, you have Another Day, Another Bullet there, don't you?
Yeah, we also have Arguing with Gravity, I believe was the other one.
Yes. So you have something special for Another Day, Another Bullet.
We do have something special for Another Day, Another Bullet. You'd like to do that one next?
Yes. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So tell us about Another Day, Another Bullet.
So clearly there was a lot of shootings going on for a very long time. And there still are. But just these mass shootings where children were getting killed. It was happening one after another, and finally, this song started coming to me in a single piece where I wanted to convey objectively the horror of what's happening and not take a stance on the issue, because I have my ideas about this, you have your ideas about this, everybody does. The one piece of common ground I think most of us have is that we can't stand the idea of kids getting killed, or people getting killed.
Anybody in general, yes, but especially kids.
It doesn't matter what your feelings are on the tool that people use to carry out those executions. It's the reality of the loss. So I wanted to take this kind of old school media approach where, back in the Dan Rather days and the days before news was a commercial entity where they had to have ratings, they had to sell advertising. Once upon a time, news was intended to be a loss leader. It was supported by government subsidy, and it was there as a service to citizens, and therefore opinion pieces didn't really exist, or very rarely. It certainly wasn't like what it is today, where you can't tell the difference between opinion and fact being broadcast. They're just merged into one, and the more outrageous it is, the more viewership, the more hits it gets on media, social media. I wanted to take a very old school approach, break down 3 stories. So each verse in this song is another vignette based on real events. Not exactly, I took some liberties with them because artistic license.
Right.
But each verse tells a story about a cause and effect, where the violence started and what the results were. And I wanted the listener to make up their own mind based on the reality of the result, not the instrument involved in what happened. Because there were so many factors involved in this. And it was such a minefield to walk through to create the song and then do a video for this song and make this song a single. Because it's such a hotbed issue, and people immediately jump down your throat depending on where they sit on the gun issue.
Right.
This song is not about the gun issue. This song is about the violence issue. It's about the human cost of what's happening because we are not being proactive enough to deal with whatever is causing us. So again, so just repeats another day, another bullet, another day, another bullet over and over in the choruses, because this thing just keeps happening over and over and over. And the saddest part about this song for me, besides the fact that it's based on real things, there was so many shootings going on for a period there. I can't remember which one was the catalyst when I sat down and started writing this. It's because there were too many.
Yeah.
And that almost makes me cry. That's just, how can we have allowed this to happen?
And the reason I wanted to use the video in this, when you came to me and said this was going to be one of the songs, I said to you, can we use the video? Because the video is so powerful. Not to slight you playing it live, but the video that you did for the song is so powerful. Tell us about the video, the making of the video, the idea, the vision, how you and the director came up with it, and how it was executed.
So the director, Dom Portala, and the producer, Nina Bickel, and I sat down, and we had this, everybody analyzed the lyrics. Everybody has their own perspective on the topic. But I was very insistent on it the video coming from the same place that the song does. I don't want to tell you what to feel, and I don't want to tell you how I feel. I just want you to look and make up your own mind. And that was the idea in the video. And the imagery, it's mostly a performance video, but everyone on the production, everyone that was in the band, everyone involved clearly feels the weight of the topic. So a lot of that emotion is coming through in the performance, as well as the nods to the story and the cutaways that the director put in. You don't have to do much to pull the emotional strings on this topic. It's hard. So we didn't want to be on the nose, and we didn't want to, whack you over the head with it. We just wanted you to you have to watch this, and you can't get away from this. None of us can. What do you think about it? And does it make you want to do anything about it?
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, another day, another bullet.
Another day, another bullet. Another day, another bullet. Another day. Man shot in his Brooklyn home. His 4-year-old boy looking on. 7 years have come and gone. He's got his own gun. Man shot in a Staten Island mall. Greenpoint kid, maybe 5 feet tall. Did a little time behind the wall. That's the protocol. Another day, another bullet. Another day, another bullet. Another day. Woman shot in a robbery. Found alive on a lawn after syncope. Later bought a gun as guarantee of her safety. Woman shot in an argument when her husband tried to grab her on the man. Bride in a bloodstained cardigan as the party. Another day, another bullet. Another day, another bullet. Another day. Boy shot just before the film. Shooter with delusions who is mentally ill. Got a gun to impose God's will. That's the overkill. Boy shot in a military raid. Told it was all for a better crusade. Pulled that pin from his grenade and died in vain. Another day, another bullet. Another day, another bullet. Another day, another bullet. Another day, another bullet. Round and round and round and round and round. Another day, another bullet.
Wow. And I say that every time I see that song and that video. Wow.
Thank you.
You guys captured that so brilliantly in that video. The emotion, and it's subtle because it's a performance video, but those overlays that they did in the editing are just, it conveys the message crystal clear.
Yeah, it's one of those rare moments where, I mean, the band that recorded the song is the live band that I use. And the band that, and by the way, this was done in one take. It was one of those rare moments where we do things very old school when we record with that band. We are all in the same room. We do things, we just try and get everything together and play off each other and feel it in a way that is starting to become less and less the norm, where everything's done piece by piece.
Right.
We wanted to capture that vibe together. I sat the guys down. I explained the concept to them. Everybody, like I said, it's not hard to feel it, especially if no one's preaching at you. So everybody got it, and we cranked it out in one take, which was bizarre.
Yeah.
We had that moment, we hit the last downbeat, we're like, oh my God. And then we did another one just in case, but we took the first take. The band that performed the song in the video had that same feeling. The producer had that same feeling. The director had that same feeling. Everybody felt the importance of getting the message across without browbeating the concept.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Well done. Well done. All right, we have one more song, Arguing with Gravity.
Yes.
Cool title. Tell us about it.
It's actually from my album called Argue with Gravity. It's the title track. I used to work in my day job adventures. I worked for a very, very brilliant doctor. He was a surgeon, and his idea, he had this idea, started a company. I was one of the founders of this startup with him. The guy is just off the chart genius. Like, you can't follow half of what he says because it's over my head.
Yep.
But we were all very passionate about the project, and there was one afternoon where, good leaders are smart enough to know what they're not good at, and they hire people that are good at those things.
Right.
And they know when to step back and not have the conversation because they're out of their depth. Even geniuses like this guy. We got into it one day, and everyone's very passionate about this project. It was healthcare related, and we were going head to head, and halfway through that conversation, I'm like, how can I argue with this guy? This guy is just off the chart, brilliant, but I know he's not right about this thing. And something I said in the conversation stopped him cold. And he calmed down. He looked at me. He's like, I got nothing more. That's like arguing with gravity. I can't say anything. You're right. And I never heard that phrase before. And I just thought about that. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. I mean, think about human flight and things that argue with gravity. Eventually, gravity's going to win. You can't beat it. And it was just such a great phrase. And later on, when I ended up doing the other job I was telling you about, where I worked for the Department of Defense and was doing horrible places and seeing bad things, that phrase came back to me. As I'm in one of those scenarios, remembering that I'm a creative person, I'm a songwriter, I'm a musician, and I've been one since I was 8 years old. This is what I've known my entire life. How did I get here? And how do I get back? And like choosing this lifestyle because of the sake of putting food on the table and paying the bills, which it was doing that, and it was fabulous, was robbing me of my soul and who I believe I was born to be. And I was good at doing it, but it was like arguing with gravity.
Well, okay. There's a thing to be said about money isn't everything, There's a thing to be said about sometimes what you do for your soul is more important if the bills get paid or not. I think we both struggle with that sometimes in our careers. I mean, I think we have both struggled with that along the way at different times. Knowing your story, you and I have talked many times about how our stories sort of did that, and we just crisscrossed at one point and met each other. There have been plenty of times, I'm sure, in both of our careers where we were like, this isn't going to pay me a lot, but man, I need to do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's reconciling the fact that it's okay to have other skills that aren't related to this. It's okay to be good at other things. It makes you a broader human being.
Right.
It gives you broader experience, and it gives you, more options in life and more experience to come back to this and write about, which is fabulous. But at the end of the day, just who are you? And at the end of the day, it's what is the honest version of you? Is it these other things that you're good at? It could be. And maybe it's an amalgam of all those things. But if it feels wrong, it's probably wrong.
Right. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Munk Duane, Arguing with Gravity.
What have I done? Came with the best intentions. Now I hold the gun with no hope of intervention. How did I get here? Thought I could save the world one pixel at a time. Now I scream like a little girl. I'm a victim of a victimless crime. How did I get here? While I'm arguing with gravity, tragically I find drags me down, it has no sympathy, beats me every time. So I do decline to take the ride at the high cost of my mind. You can't help me while I'm arguing. Whoa, 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 whoa. With gravity. I see my consequence. Too little and too late. In my search for dominance, only nonsense. Since I bit the bait, how did I get here? Thought I could make a change, influence from within. Now I'm standing at the firing range, with only my bare skin, party to sin. How did I get here? While I'm arguing with gravity, tragically I find drags me down, it has no sympathy, beats me every time. So I do decline to take the ride at the high cost of my mind. You can't help me while I'm arguing. Whoa, 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 whoa. With gravity.
Very cool, my friend. Very cool.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you very much.
That was Munk Duane and Arguing with Gravity. Well, man, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a lot of fun. It's always cool to get, away from the gig world and kind of peel back the layers of a career and kind of get to know people past Brown Eyed Girl.
Well put.
I think a lot of people see performers on such a regular basis that don't get to tour as original acts, and then they get a vision of who they are. And that's why I love what we're doing here and being able, like I just said, peel the layers back and giving somebody a different view of you and your songs and the why. So I think that's going to help people who may just be flirting with the outside of your career invest a little more into what the meaning is, and that might pull, hopefully that pulls them in. So
thank you for doing that service for us. It's like we live a double major in life. We do what we got to do to pay the bills, and we do that little Brown Eyed Girl dance monkey dance thing, and then this is us. This is a language that we get to speak that's truly who we are, that I am not good at putting into regular conversational words.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm not either, and I just stay quiet about it. So, well, thanks again for doing this with me today. Thanks for being here. I'm gonna put your his info has been scrolling right down here the entire show. So make sure you grab his website. I'm going to put his info slide up. Make sure you write down. This is all of his info right here.
You can take a screenshot of it. I don't know who writes anything down.
So we're going to say goodbye to Monk right now. I want to thank you guys for being here this week. I'm John Taglieri, and this is the Sunday Storytellers Series. I want to thank Munk Duane for being here tonight and telling us all his stories and giving us a little behind-the-scenes look at how his songs came to be. I want to remind you that every week we are here live on Facebook, 6 p.m. every single Sunday, and then 7 p.m. on Roku on the Plymouth Rock TV channel. So that's 2 chances, but you also get Sunday at 6 p.m. on Roku on the Plymouth Rock TV channel. You get last week's show as we're filming this week's show brand new. So you got 3 chances a week to see the show, but even on top of that, we're on demand. So say you can't make it Thursday, you can't make it Sunday. Why? I don't know. You've got nowhere to be right now. You can stream this on the Roku network anytime you want to on the Plymouth Rock TV channel or on Facebook. It's always on our Facebook page. Once again, thanks for being here. I am John Taglieri, and I will see you next week. Hey, here's our Facebook info.
I've been searching for something in me. God knows how hard this journey's been. But there's a fire burning, there's a finish line to reach. And my convictions are what keep me sane. 'Cause I'm wide awake and dreaming. Those shadows can't find me anymore. These days I'm believing in everything that I'm fighting for. Times like these from me are fleeting. Never know when you're gonna get another chance. But I find the strength in knowing the circle of winning's coming round again. 'Cause I'm wide awake and dreaming. Those shadows can't find me anymore. These days I'm believing in everything that I'm fighting for. Spend my life banging down every door. Man, it knocked me all around, but now I'm back for more. Wide awake and dreaming. Those shadows can't find me anymore. These days I'm believing in everything that I'm fighting for. Wide awake and dreaming. Those shadows can't find me anymore. These days I'm believing in everything that I'm fighting for. Wide awake and dreaming. Those shadows can't find me anymore. These days I'm believing in everything that I'm fighting for.